Hello, Don Lesky Sr. here, Property Manager, BCF Properties, LLC, Tacoma, Lakewood, Washington, just south of Seattle. This is the tip of the iceberg. This is my actual first chapter in my book, Landlord-Tenant Nightmares, slated to be on Amazon.com later this year. So anyway, I'm going to jump right into this. I could probably fill a book quite a bit larger with all the things I have to say. Tip of the iceberg. You know what the iceberg is. It floats around in the ocean and it sinks ships, right? Well, the tip of the iceberg is generally all that people ever see. It's the very little bit top of it, where there's a huge mountain of iceberg underneath, and that's what sank the Titanic. So I'm sure everybody's read the book, heard the story, the history, and maybe the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, the Titanic that sunk. Well, that means 95% is underwater. So just like that, with this book, I can only tell you the tip of the iceberg with a lot of what I have to say. There's so much more. There will be more in my book than what I'm sharing on the video, and I may get away from the book a little bit and ad lib, or I'll remember some things and go ahead and share it in the video. So that's just how it is. So anyway, you're going to want to trust me on one thing. It's all crazy stuff, and I'm not going to tell a lie. I'm going to tell it like it is. This is some real stuff. A couple weeks ago, I don't know, maybe it's probably been 3-4 weeks now, we had one of our tenants that got stabbed several times in one of our multi-family apartment complexes over in Lakewood, near the main gate of McCord Air Force Base. The local people tend to want to call it Chocolate City. Well, I don't know. I think it's so named because of the mix of different nationalities, the black people, the Hispanics, Asians, other brown races. So my wife's from the Philippines, our kids are brown, so you might understand I have no racial bias, and I don't even want to go there. I don't care about the crap that people play. I've also observed some poor white trash in that community as well, but it's a poor area of very cheap apartments and small houses, which attract many of those who are low income. Anyway, people who can afford to live in a better place or a better house, a better area, they don't live there. I've had people approach me and say, Don, can you get me out of this? Put me anywhere, but get me out of here. So I am a tenant advocate on the internet at allexperts.com. I try to help tenants. I do what I can, but it's a tough go, you know, because cheap apartments and cheap living is in poor areas and poor neighborhoods. People that can afford better, they don't live there. They move on. Okay, there's a famous hilltop area of Tacoma. Anybody that lives in this area has heard of the hilltop. Back in the 70s, it had quite a reputation for being a lot of gangs, drugs, drive-by. There's a saying in our area in Tacoma, drive-by. It's drive-by means people would drive by and just shoot. They pull their gun out, bang bang, and they do some shooting. And usually it's young men that have nothing better in life to do. They're trying to prove themselves to the gang and all this crap, you know. They want to flip their gang signs and do their shit, you know. But it's really sad. It pisses me off. But there's a lot of good people out there that just want a place to live. They just want to be left in peace. So, at any rate, I'm reading from my script on a 70-inch screen here. So, if my eyes don't focus right on, it's because I'm looking down at this frickin' screen here. I don't know why I'm using a 70-inch screen, but it's kind of cool. So the Crips and Bloods were said to have migrated up here from Southern California in the early 70s. And well, to be quite frank, that's the story. And people can read a lot of stories from the Seattle Times and the Tacoma News Tribune about this time and that era. For almost a decade, the hilltop was bad. Lily Ing, E-N-G, of the Seattle Times wrote an article stating in part, and I'm going to read it. I'm going to read, well, a portion of it. For almost a decade, the hilltop, one of Tacoma's oldest neighborhoods, was a scary place. The kind of place where drivers automatically locked their doors, rolled up the windows. Don't look, don't stop, just drive. There was a reason for this paranoia. There was a shooting gallery, says Alberta, Canada, who has lived in the hilltop for more than 30 years. It was damn scary. I get the feeling that we were written off. Hilltop has not miraculously changed overnight. Like many urban neighborhoods that were filled with plight, it takes time. But the city of Tacoma began a renovation of that area, and it's not crime-free yet. It's not all picket fences and mowed lawns, but it isn't the neighborhood it was 10 or even 5 years ago, and that itself is an achievement. So once the hilltop symbolized urban living at its very worst, gang members brazenly wore gun holsters in the street, drug dealers waved down drivers as they passed along, "Hey man, you looking?" Crackheads got high in the street, and there were countless funerals for those who got murdered. I was here, I know, I lived through that time. So at the height of Hilltop's notoriety in 1989, an off-duty U.S. Army Ranger and suspected drug dealers fired at each other with semi-automatics, crouching for cover behind fences and porches. For more than 10 minutes, 300 rounds were exchanged before police arrived. Although no one was hurt, the hilltop's reputation was firmly sealed. Those who could left for the suburbs. The more you can Google that and find out more about it. Those who stayed shored themselves up and struggled to restore Hilltop's image. It was never easy, and it has taken years. When neighbors and police first installed a video camera in 1993 to stem the drug tide at a Hilltop corner, one gangster pulled out his 9mm, took aim, and coolly shot the camera off its ledge. You don't see that in England, right? Anyway, neighbors put up the camera again along with 6 others at various corners. Block by block, residents organized and got city officials to pay attention to the neighborhood. Now there's a payoff. Police statistics show that 33% drop in property and violent crimes in 10 years. Drug dens have been mostly disappeared. And a series of drug arrests from 1994 to 1997 captured nearly 200 dealers. 200, that's great. With the most violent profiles. I don't mean they got them all. Call me bullheaded or stupid, but I did not care. If I had a rental to manage for an owner who was too scared or unable to do it for themselves, then I handled my business. I'd go on at nighttime or any time to deal with whatever I had to deal with. I never carried a firearm, and I don't today. I've had several employees who did carry permits, and at times had carry permits and would ask one of them to ride along a shotgun with me at times when even I felt a need for backup. Now, I don't know, I didn't put this in the book, but my 2 sons and I took 5 years of martial arts, Jeet Kune Do at Lindeman's Academy of Martial Arts on Pacific Avenue here in Tacoma in the Parkland area. Oos. And I have to tell you, it's one of the best things I ever did. Now, prior to that, I wasn't scared of nobody, but I was stupid. So with that training, I learned that a street criminal can be one of the worst nightmares you can imagine. You don't know what they're going to do. You don't know if they got a gun or a knife or what they're going to pull. So I learned that it's better to be more humble and more careful about how we conduct business. One of the reasons I joined was one of my sons had been picked on a little at school, and he doesn't admit that today. He's, oh, I was never picked on, Dad. Well, that's because after a year of martial arts, he was the one doing the picking. So he's going back to those picking on him and taking it to him. Got a little trouble for that, and I remember our Sifu Cliff administering a little discipline and telling him, if you do that again, you're out of here. So he would kick them out of the dojo if they used what he taught in a bad way. Good for him. So anyway, yeah, I never carried a firearm. So I wouldn't even think of allowing my ladies to go into neighborhoods like that alone. It's just against our company policy. I don't allow it. So I issued them all with a bottle of pepper spray, and I had a taser in the office they could grab when they needed to go into an area, but I still wanted them to take somebody with them. On a good note, so now, as I mentioned before, Tacoma's cleaning this area up, okay? And now they've got upscale townhomes and condos put up in that area. They've actually taken out whole blocks of older homes and dilapidated buildings, entire blocks. So to their credit, Tacoma has endeavored to not become another Chicago. Tacoma will not become another Detroit. Tacoma does care about their citizens. Not perfect, not a perfect town to live in by any means, but has improved tremendously. Now, so most of the people that move in this area don't know the history, and no one tells them either. It's actually against the law. It's against the law for a licensed real estate agent to talk to somebody, or to, in particular, steer them away from an area. They call that steering. There's certain red letter words. Oh my goodness, I got to get a list of that. I have got to get a list of these red letter words and read it off. You will not believe what we're not allowed to do. I think society has gone over the edge and fallen over with catering to the demands of the poor little innocent person, so to speak. Oh, this poor person, or this, and yes, we need protection for poor people, for low-income people, and of course we do. But I think our system of justice has went the other way with justice. I'll put it that way. Anyway, so they've, let me see, let me read what I'm doing here. Okay, anyway, I got a gun-toting guy that worked for me. I'm going to call him Joseph. And he had a permit to carry. So, okay. And he was with me on a run at one time. We went to a neighborhood in Parkland that there were squatters in one of our vacant homes. And I would tell you, right, this is probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. It's kind of sad, yes, but I got a call that there were some squatters in one of our vacant houses. And just the night before, there'd been nobody in there, so I knew they hadn't taken up residency. There's no furniture, no clothing, no nothing like that. You see, there's a law in the state of Washington. If squatters bring in furniture and clothing and take up residency and don't get caught soon enough, it actually takes a court order to get them out. You believe that shit? What the fuck? What the hell? So, anyway, so we got to be real careful to keep an eye on our properties, and we do. So I went back. It was a day or maybe 2 days at the most later, and we heard this report. So I said, Joseph. I said, come on, Joseph, let's go. And so we headed on out. Let's get out there and find out what's going on. Man, I seen, as we walked up to the place, I seen there was numerous people there inside. So we had a key for the door. Wasn't supposed to be anybody in there. I banged on the door. Nobody opened the door. I went on in, and there were sleeping bags and bedding there that obviously they just brought in, thrown on the middle of the floor. Joseph had his gun drawn. I don't think it was loaded, and I have to disclose that for legal reasons. And he yelled out in an angry voice, "Landlord here, we have guns drawn, we're going to start shooting on the count of 3 if you motherfuckers are still here." Rabbits. Man, these guys were rabbits. Out the window, out the doors, they were gone. So it was the funniest thing. I think that was, up to that time, it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. So it worked, you know. We got them out of there, and there was not much, hardly any damage. We just had to vacuum up a little bit, and I think we changed the lock on the door. I don't know. I think they got in through a window. Anyway, but we wouldn't have shot anyone anyway. I could, if somebody approached me and put their hand on me, I have no problem dealing with that. And I will handle somebody and I would twist them into a knot. But I've never had that problem. So anyway, let me tell you the twisted side of this story. This guy had worked for me this guy Joseph. He worked for me for about 4 years, I guess, and maintenance guy. And his girlfriend came to me one day, not too long after this happened, and she told me, she says, she was all distraught and everything. I asked her, I said, "What's going on?" And she says, "Well, you know, Joseph, man, I don't want to say his name so bad. I just don't want any repercussions later." Anyway, she said, he's been stealing your tools and equipment. Well, I'd lost about $25,000 worth of my tools and equipment, probably over a 5-year period, and I never could figure out what was going on. But I'm a busy guy. I've got a lot going on. I'm multitasking. At the time I was running a web design company, and I had worked with some other people to build 260 commercial websites. So I was busy, and a lot of things going on, a lot of irons in the fire. And so I said, "Well, really, are you kidding?" And I really was, instantly I was angry. Because I trusted this guy. Trust, man, it's so hard, when you trust somebody, you really like somebody, and you have that trust to have that broken. So I said, "Well, what happened?" And she said, "Well, he's been having me take it to pawn shops, your equipment and your tools, for 4 years now." And so I called the police. I said, "Well, hold on." So I called the police out there, and by the time the police got involved, she recanted her story. They said there's nothing they could do because she not only recanted her story, but man, again, stupid me, right? I can be stupid. I didn't have any serial numbers. I didn't have any photographs of my equipment and tools. I didn't have jack, nothing. So I did sue him in court. To his credit, he showed up, and I won a judgment for several $1,000s. But he quickly moved to Utah with his girlfriend and their kids. So I just wrote it off. You know, what am I going to do? But a few years later, I had a call to Asotin Street, apartments over there, and I was told there's somebody that had just kicked in a door. Well, that's a red flag. That's a big red flag. Somebody calls and tells me that somebody's kicked in one of the doors of my apartments. I'll get there before the police. Of course we call the police. That's the thing to do, right? But you know, the cops have a busy schedule. All my family are sheriffs, police department. They've been in the past chief of police, Osceola, Wisconsin, sheriff's department in Minneapolis, St. Paul. All my uncles. I never did get into the police work. It doesn't pay enough to get shot at or killed. But I am thankful for our police. Anyway, so I grabbed another one of my employees at that time. This is after Joseph was gone. I grabbed this other guy that worked for me, and I said, "Hey, come on, we got to break in." So he came with me riding shotgun. We went on out there. We went up to the upper landing, the second floor, and sure enough, the door was in splinters and just kind of pushed closed, but it wasn't shut. So I held the doorknob and banged on it just to be legal, you know. Hey, landlord coming in, right? We're coming in. So here this black guy comes around the corner down the hallway toward the front door, you know, putting his pants on and cussing and calling us motherfuckers, you know. Where did that term motherfucker come from? I don't like that. You know, our President Barack Obama says that word many times in his book, Dreams of My Father. What the hell? We voted this guy into office as a president. He's got the foulest mouth there is, you know. Anyway, whatever. Maybe he's done some good things too. So this guy's coming at us, and Dave's got his hand on his hip. Now, to his credit, did I say Dave? Well, anyway, he's a good guy. And that was a, what do you call it, a pseudonym? I'm changing the name to protect the innocent. Okay, so anyway, he's got his hand on his hip, and this guy's coming toward us. I'm telling you, this guy, as soon as he saw David stand there with his gun, his hand on his hip, and he's armed, and he was turned slightly so you could see his gun quite clearly. This guy froze. He just, like a cartoon, you know, got froze. His eyes got big. What the hell? What the hell? And I said, man, you are not on the lease. You've kicked the door in. I'm call the police. The police will be here in 5 minutes. If you're smart, man, you will hit the road. This guy was gone. He squeezed by us, and ducked his head and gone. So, and followed behind him came this heavy-set white girl going, "Who the hell you MF sons of bitches? Who you think you are?" You know, and she didn't care he had a gun or what. She said, "My cousin let me in here." I said, "No, they didn't. You don't even know who the lease is written to. Name the person that's on the lease. What's your cousin's name?" "Well, no, well," I said, "It don't matter. The police are on the way. They're going to arrest you, put you in handcuffs, take you to jail. You're illegally trespassing. You damaged this door." And she grabbed all her shit, man. She was gone. You think, man, you think the house was on fire. And she just, oh my God. She grabbed her stuff. It was gone. So this is real. I mean, this is for real. Yeah, we're taking our life in our hands doing this kind of stuff, you know. I don't think the police could have or would have done anything about it. We didn't even have to enter the apartment. the doors already broke open. So there's these little careful nuances in the law that we have to be careful of, and to get the job done. So anyway, that's what happened there. There's no furniture in the place, garbage, nasty things I don't even care to talk about here. So anyway, off they went. Let's see. Okay, so there's only 2 out of 50, well, I'm estimating 50 property management companies in the Tacoma-Pierce County area that are that have an A rating with a Better Business Bureau. The vast majority of property management companies don't even belong to the BBB. And let me explain why. It's because tenants get routinely kicked out. They don't get their deposit back on a routine basis. I'm not saying deserved or not, but it just the landlords and property management companies get a really bad rating from tenants because tenants get pissed off. They think they have a right to their deposit back. All they have to do is vacuum the carpet up and take their stuff with them. The sad part is what tenants don't realize is they don't have to clean the place spick and span, but they can't leave holes in the wall that weren't in there when they moved in. They can't leave dog crap on the carpet. Urine stains that have gone through so much that the underlayment underneath the carpet padding is all stained with urine. I mean, it's just some of the nastiest things you can imagine. I'm not saying all tenants are like this, of course not. But some tenants think it's okay. Oh, well, I'm just living here, I'm a tenant, I can do what I want. I haven't kicked any hole in the wall, so I need to get my deposit back. I need that money. Well, what about the poor owner? The owners need that money. And they got some wannabe lawyer tenant that knows the RCW landlord-tenant law better than they do, they think. And that comes in and just does what they want. And they can get away with it, they think, because of the law. Now, unfortunately, there's a lot of landlords or property managers out there who really don't know the law. I swear to God, some of these are licensed property management companies. Now, let me qualify that. There's a lot of property management companies out there, and I hate to say a lot, it might not be a lot, but there's too many property management companies, people collecting rent for other people that don't have a license. It's against the law. So if you don't have a license, don't collect rent. It's against the law. Anyway, moving on with this story. These 50 property management companies and how they are and who they are. I don't want to start bashing property management companies. Let me tell you, the way I grew up and getting married at 18, having some bad landlords, really sealed it for me. I hated landlords. To this day, I really don't have a lot of respect for most landlords. But the reality is, landlords are just like tenants or like property owners. They're human. We're all, regardless of what pot you put us in, it's like the pot calling the kettle black, we're all humans. I've seen just as many bad owners, property owners. And so, life isn't easy. But we try to walk down this road dealing with tenants and dealing with owners. Owners are saying, I want all my money, I want all the deposit, I want my house to be left just the same as it was 5 years ago when they first started renting it. And they expect to walk in and have it smell good, have it look great, all this. But it's not reality. The reality is, once a house becomes a rental, it will rarely ever become the house it was before. So it's just how it is. Now, One thing we do that might set us apart is we have meetings every week on Monday, and we have training on Wednesday. So we have 2 meetings a week to go over landlord-tenant law, the RCW revised Code of Washington laws, rules, regulations, problems that the company might be having, this kind of thing. If somebody wants to see a list of all the property management companies in Pierce County, I have a pretty good list. It might not be complete at www.tacoma, put a hyphen or a dash, property-managers.com. So that's tacomapropertymanagers.com, and just put a hyphen between the words, and you're going to see a really complete list. There's a little bit of rating there, and it gives some companies 1 star, some companies 3 stars or 4, and there's, I don't know, you might find one company with a 5 star. Anyway, so we find out what's going on the street. We stay in touch with what's going on the street. My staff tells me the drama and harsh conditions they've had to endure and how they handle it. So I'll include some of their stories in my book and in future videos. One thing I know for a fact is we have a good reputation. I welcome anybody to look us up on the Better Business Bureau. We work hard to gain the respect of our tenants. Owners say, well, you have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for my best interests. And that's true. We do. The property owners are our client. Tenants are not our primary client. It's the property owners. That's who we sign a contract with. And we do look out for their best interests. By treating our tenants fairly and being kind, having a heart, trying to help them and deal with issues in an honest, fair way, we're doing in great measure, we're doing the best thing that could be done for a property owner. We're keeping their tenants in place longer, less evictions, less damage to the unit. Let me tell you what, with our tenants, we'll pay for a free U-Haul to help them move on if need be. If they're coming up with an eviction, it could be something like they're having a bankruptcy, a divorce, they lost their job, the dog bit them, their truck don't run. You think that's funny? That's not funny. If the truck doesn't run, they don't have a car, they're not going to be able to pay their rent. Now, I have an employee of mine that still works for me that I found on the street. He was walking down the street with his wife and 2 little babies, stroller, and they had all their bags with them walking down the street. I stopped and said, hey, what's going on with you guys? Because they're a good-looking couple and all that. Geez, you look homeless, So he said, yeah, my truck stopped running. We stayed with her mother, and the mother had a boyfriend. They got tired of him and kicked him out. So, no truck, no car, lost his job as a result of that. The relatives kicked him out on the street, and there they go walking down the street with all their shit. So, I asked this guy, I says, what can you do? What skill do you have? He said, I can paint. I'm a painter. I can do sheetrock repair. I'm actually about to get my license as a journeyman electrician. And my eyes, my mind just started working. He said, I can do some plumbing work. There's a lot of things I can do, I said, holy cow, you serious? So I said, come on with me, you guys get in. So I had him get into my truck, my 4-door truck here. And we sat down, we talked for just a real little bit. And I happened to have at that point, I needed a maintenance guy. So I said, why don't you, now I don't have this in my book, by the way, this is just an ad lib. I said, but why don't you guys, would you like to have a job? I'll give you a job. Now minimum wage is what, $9.70 an hour? So I told him I'll start you at $15 an hour. I've got some vacant apartments. I can put you in an apartment. It's $650 a month for this apartment. It's all remodeled, new floor, new paint, everything. It's not in the best neighborhood though. He said, well, we're homeless. We're, you know, what choice do we have? That's fine. He says, I can't believe you're doing this for us. So he still works for me today. I don't want to use his name without his permission, but the guy turned out to be a good worker. He just didn't have a car. So we helped him out of that. I gave him our company maintenance van to drive home every night, and just told him it's not to be used for pleasure. Our vehicles have trackers on them. I don't want to look at the tracking at easytracker.com. I don't want to look at my tracker and see you've been out on a pleasure cruise, you know, or driving around. So we set things straight, got him a job. He's doing much better today. It's all about doing the right thing. So that's the tip of the iceberg. And I have several chapters more to talk about. Man, oh man. You're not going to believe all the stories about the pole dancers. We rented this place over, I think it was Steel Street. We rented a place on Steel Street to some girls from Hooters. Man, they had put a pole up in the dining room and swinging around this pole and having fun. And they paid the rent on time, and it screened okay, but it was just, they didn't ask permission to put the pole up. And this is typical of the kind of stuff we deal with. We had a military guy that moved into a house over near the hilltop, on the edge of the hilltop. He wasn't aware of the kind of neighborhood it was. There'd been a killing where some guy had killed his wife and buried the body in the backyard about a block away from the house that we rented him. Well, by law, now I'm telling you, this is God's honest truth. I am not allowed to tell people these things. I can't steer people to a different neighborhood because of this or that. But they moved in and found out about this and demanded that we move them elsewhere. We did. We finally did. It's just, from then on, we were terrible landlords. So you see, we can't please everybody. We try to help out. If we find people who are just lying to us, trying to beat the system and scammers, I don't care. I'm not going to help them a bit. So I'll take them to court. I think in 30 years, we lost one court case. No, two. We lost 2 court cases in 30 years. One because we didn't post the paperwork in a timely manner. Oh no, it wasn't posted in a timely manner. It was, we sent to the last known address, and the tenant had given us the address of where they were moving. He got to court, and he admitted to the judge, oh yeah, I finally got the documents and it all, you know, all that. But the judge says, well, because you didn't post to the right address, I'm giving the money back to the deposit money back to the tenant. Now that's how screwed up our system is. We sent the letter to the last known address where they were living. It got forwarded. So they got it within a day or two. They got it. And this was a deposit settlement letter. They explained to them the damages they had done to the place, and they weren't getting their deposit back. So they found a loophole. The guy had sent an email in, and he had proof of it, that he had told of a new address. So the judge gave his money back. We won one other time because I had rented this little mother-in-law attached 1-bedroom apartment to a guy, and he moved his girlfriend and 4 kids in. Not on the lease. We didn't know about it. When we found out about it, we gave him a 10-day notice to try and get him out. Went through this whole process, and it was in the wintertime, and you know, I didn't want to put him out, but I knew it wasn't right. I had to look out for the owner's best interest. Subsequently, he said, well, there's mold in here and it's not healthy. I said, well, move out. Well, they didn't, and they stayed because they had nowhere to go and all this. So this thing ended up in court. It was not good. I don't even want to get into it. I'm tired of talking about that guy. we got to dot our I's and cross our T's along the way. Hey, listen, I really appreciate everybody listening to what I've had to say. Really the tip of the iceberg. We're going to be talking about some prostitutes, some drug dealers. We got an old building built in 1895. It's 15,000 square foot footprint. It was a speakeasy back in the day. As you go up the stairs, there were slots in the stairwell where people could open it up and look out at who's coming in. It was just really a crazy old building, and it's legal in Washington State to have marijuana and to smoke marijuana, cannabis. So we have these cannabis stores that one's medical, another one's not medical, it's retail or whatever. So we rent to them, and oh my Lord. We try to do the right thing. I am a Christian. I believe in God. I know God's looking down every day. I pray for forgiveness of my sins. With that in hand, and 5 years of martial arts experience, a good family, and a team that's really solid, we move forward and get the job done. Thank you. God bless. Have a great day. Let's see if I can figure out how to turn this off now. Bye. Join me again. Say something in the comments. Say something nice. And I have some more very cool, very interesting stories to tell you later.